I never thought that my life would turn upside down so suddenly as it did then, at the very moment when one simple message destroyed all my ideas about happiness, stability, and love, on which I had been building my reality for 17 years. Until that day, I was sure that my world was solid, like a stone fortress, that my family was an indestructible bulwark, protected from all adversity, that my husband, with whom we had come so far together, remained faithful to me, and our daughter Sarah was the only thing I really needed to worry about. This world. But, as it turned out, we can sometimes make mistakes so deeply that even after a long time we cannot realize the scale of our own delusion. The words displayed on the phone screen seemed alien, unreal, as if I were reading an excerpt from some cheap novel, the plot of which is based on betrayal and intrigue. I blinked a few times, hoping that it was just a mistake, that it was a prank, that I would reread it now and realize that everything was not as it seemed to me. But no. The black letters on the white background remained unchanged. Hello, Caprice. I think it's time for us to talk. I'm your husband's second wife. I've been dating David for 3 years now. I stared at the screen, and a monotonous, dull hum began to sound in my head. At that moment, my consciousness seemed to separate from my body, hovering somewhere in the space between reality and a nightmare. My eyes ran over these words over and over again, but their meaning refused to fit into my head. For a while, I just sat there, clutching my phone with my fingers, feeling an incomprehensible, unformulated feeling growing in my chest, a mixture of panic, rage, pain, and complete confusion. My first thought was, this is impossible. Then, this is some kind of mistake. And then, someone is playing an evil game with me. I even tried to remember if there were any people among my friends or colleagues who could make such a ridiculous joke, but no one who it would never have occurred to him to be capable of such sophisticated cruelty. In the end, I did the only thing left in this situation. I typed in the answer with trembling fingers. A few seconds passed, then the phone vibrated again and a new message appeared on the screen. David didn't tell you about me? Surprisingly. Although I probably shouldn't be surprised. He was never a man who could honestly admit his actions. We've been dating for 3 years now, and I thought he was divorced, until I found your profile and photos with him. I'm sorry, but I needed to tell you the truth. We have a wonderful son. The child he always wanted. I'm young, beautiful, and I make him happy in a way you can never be. I felt sick, but I couldn't stop reading. As if under hypnosis, I continued to read every word, feeling something inside me inevitably crumble. Then the screenshots appeared. Dozens of messages between my husband and this woman, black and white evidence of betrayal, which was not a day, not a month, but 3 whole years. I can't look at her anymore, David wrote. She's so fat and ugly, being in bed with her is like sleeping next to a log. Tears blurred my vision, but I kept scrolling over and over. Her cooking makes me vomit. The whole house seems suffocating. If it wasn't for Sarah, I would have left years ago. The last message from this woman was like a final slap in the face. If you have any pride left, Caprice, you will let him go. He doesn't love you anymore. He hasn't loved me for a long time. The room began to spin, the floor went out from under his feet. I tried to stand up, but my legs wouldn't hold me up. The last thing I heard was the thud of the phone hitting the floor before everything went dark. I woke up to Sarah's worried face looming over me. I was lying on the living room floor, right where I fell. Mom? Mom, can you hear me? Sarah's voice sounded as if it were coming from a distance, as if through a thick veil of fog. I'm calling an ambulance. No, honey. I'm fine. I tried to say it, but the words came out slurred, my lips wouldn't obey. The paramedics arrived anyway. They checked my vital signs while I was sitting on the couch, trying to regain my ability to think, speak, breathe. Sarah didn't let go of my hand, squeezing it as if she was afraid I would pass out again. It was then that David entered the living room. What happened? What is it? He asked, and for a moment I thought I saw a flicker of concern in his eyes. Then he saw my phone, still open on those same messages. I looked at him. "Is that true?" I whispered. "All of this?" He didn't even try to deny it. His face tightened, as if he was finally tired of this game, as if he had decided that there was no point in hiding anymore. "Yes." I froze. "I don't love you anymore, Caprice. I haven't loved you for a long time. I want a divorce." Sarah, who had been standing next to me all this time, squeezed my hand even harder. There was silence in the room. The paramedics tactfully went into the kitchen, giving us space, but it seemed to me that the air had become thick, unbearable, as if it could not be inhaled. "How could you do this to your mom?" Sarah's voice was shaking with rage. David held her gaze, then sighed wearily. "I'm sorry that you found out about it that way." And that was all he said before leaving the room. The next few weeks flew by in a blur. Everything was automatic: paperwork, lawyers, office meetings, discussion of details, formalities, endless signatures. I became a child for divorce. I just moved by inertia, like a zombie, performing the necessary actions, but feeling nothing but emptiness. Sarah became my rock. She resolutely refused to move in with her father, despite his attempts to convince her otherwise. He agreed to pay child support without arguing, which was probably the only decent thing he had done in all that time. Time passed, as always. Before I knew it, Sarah was already graduating from high school. David and I split the cost of her college tuition equally. It seemed that now we had only one thing left: polite communication, dry, strained, necessary only for Sarah's sake. We both wanted the best for our daughter, even if we couldn't stand being in the same room. Sarah chose a college in another city. Everything was fine at first. She called regularly, talked about classes, new friends, and her life in the dorm. I lived for these calls, clinging to every detail she shared, trying not to burden her with my thoughts and emotions, not to talk about how difficult it is for me to be alone. But gradually the calls became less frequent. When I tried to contact her, I received short, staccato messages. "I'm sorry, Mom, I'm busy right now. I have a study group, I can't talk. Maybe next week, okay?" A week turned into two into a month. I found myself sitting in silence, staring at the phone, waiting for it to light up with her name, for her to text, for her to tell me something, for her to miss me. But there were no calls. One day, when another message from her was as short and dry as all the previous ones, I couldn't stand it. "Sarah, you've become so distant. We don't talk much." A few minutes, nothing. Then the short answer. "I'm sorry, Mom. I'm busy right now and I can't talk. Just studying and all that." Each excuse, each of her short, detached answers was like a small punch in the gut, but I tried to convince myself that all this was just temporary, that Sarah was just busy with student life, studies, friends, new opportunities that opened up to her in this adult world, so far from me. But then she stopped coming home altogether. "Why don't you visit me anymore, honey?" I asked once during one of our rare phone conversations, when another week of silence was replaced by a short, dry call. "Mom, you know how it is." She sounded annoyed, as if this conversation weighed on her, as if I had violated some unspoken order of her new life. So many things: studies, friends, events. I just missed my studies, honestly. I wanted to believe it. I should have believed it. Otherwise, I would have to admit that she was deliberately avoiding me. But one evening, when loneliness weighed especially heavily on my chest, I opened her page on social networks. At first, nothing unusual: typical photos of student life, captions about new courses, pictures with friends, laughter, lightness. And then I saw it. There was a familiar face among her friends. At first it seemed to me that I was mistaken, that memory was playing a cruel trick on me, but no, I couldn't help but recognize her. The woman who ruined my marriage. Bella. My hand was shaking when I clicked on her profile. What I saw made my blood run cold. Dozens of photos. Sarah. David. Bella. Their little son. They are a family. Finally reunited. Read the caption under one of the photos. Full family time is another name. In each shot, Sarah beamed, laughing, hugging her father and his new wife as if they had always been one big happy family. It's like there weren't any years when David cheated on me, like he didn't leave me for this woman. I felt sick. All those excuses, all those missed visits, she was with them. All this time. With trembling fingers, I took screenshots. And I sent them to Sarah. Then she called. My heart was pounding so hard that it seemed like I wouldn't be able to breathe anymore. She answered on the third ring. Before I could say anything, she spoke first. I was wondering when you'd find out. Her voice was cold, distant. A stranger. Why, Sarah? Why didn't you tell me? Because they're funny, Mom. They are rich and interesting. Dad and Bella take me shopping, give me designer clothes. He just bought me a new car for my birthday. What are you offering me? A boring apartment? A boring life? Every word was a slap in the face. I'm your mother, Sarah. My voice was shaking, even though I was trying to hold on. I raised you. Really? Her laugh was short and sharp. I'm old enough to choose who to spend time with. Bella gives me money when I need it. They take me on vacation. If you don't like it, that's your problem. I was sitting in my quiet, empty apartment, staring at the phone screen through tears. First, David. Now Sarah. The two people I loved the most in the world both chose a young, beautiful, and rich woman for me. I curled up on the couch and sobbed. I needed someone to talk to. Someone who will remember me, once strong, alive, and able to fight. And then I remembered him. Father. We haven't spoken in 15 years. Since the last time I slammed the door of his house, protecting David. He's not right for you, Caprice. You just don't want me to be happy. You've never supported my choice. Were the last words we exchanged before I left. I left to face the life that destroyed me. The irony was unbearable. With trembling fingers, I dialed the number. Half of me expected that it would be disconnected, that the connection had been lost for a long time. But after a few seconds, a voice rang out. Not changed at all. Hello? My breath caught in my throat. Dad. Silence on the other end. It's a Caprice. He was silent for only a moment, but that moment seemed like an eternity to me. Can you come right now? Do you want me to come? I'll send you the gate code. The code from the gate. I thought about it while I was driving there, to my childhood home. But nothing could have prepared me for what I saw. The modest house I grew up in has been transformed into something completely different. In front of me was a stunning estate surrounded by high gates with a security system, and even without going inside, I realized that everything had changed beyond recognition behind these walls. The once cozy but small house has now turned into a spacious, luxurious dwelling, at least 3 times its former size. I couldn't take my eyes off this majestic building until I heard a voice full of warmth and strength. Welcome home, sweetheart. I turned sharply at the sound and saw him. My father stood at the massive oak door, looking almost the same as in my memory, only now his hair was completely gray, and the wrinkles around his eyes were a little deeper than before. But the look remained the same, attentive, kind, insightful. Dad, what? How? I pointed helplessly at the house, unable to find the words. He just grinned, proudly surveying his domain. A lot can happen in 15 years. Come in, I'll explain everything. Let's have some coffee. He motioned me inside. I followed, amazed not only by the external changes, but also by what was waiting inside. Where our simple, cozy kitchen once was, there was now a space worthy of the best restaurants, modern, spacious, with snow, white marble countertops, stylish pendant lights and appliances that I had previously seen only in magazines. While he was making coffee, I couldn't help but ask, "How did you do that?" My father put a cup in front of me and, leaning on the counter, smiled. "I built a real estate empire from scratch," he said matter-of-factly, as if he were talking about something completely mundane. "Now I have about 30 objects all over the city, residential, commercial. It turns out your old man has business acumen after all." I couldn't believe my ears. He was a simple man, never aspired to wealth, always valued stability, or maybe I just hadn't seen his ambitions before. Then it was my turn to speak. I told him everything. About David's betrayal. About Bella. About how Sarah chose them over me. I couldn't hold back my tears. I sobbed into his shoulder, feeling like a little girl who had come to her father to seek comfort. "I'm so sorry, Dad," I whispered. "You were right about David. I should have listened to you." He gently stroked my hair, his voice was warm, soothing. "I forgave you a long time ago, sweetheart. I'm just glad you're here now. At home." From that day on, I started visiting him regularly. It was like trying to make up for all the years of separation. We talked about everything, about his business, about my life, about our regrets and mistakes. One evening, when we were sitting on the terrace with a stunning view of the night city, he made me an unexpected proposal. "Come work for me," he said, leaning back in his chair. "I need a good accountant for the company. Someone I can trust. Someone who can learn the business from scratch." I shook my head. "Dad, I don't know anything about real estate." "I'll teach you," he replied calmly. "You're smart, Caprice. You've always been like this. And also—" He paused, studying my face carefully. "Maybe it'll help you take your mind off everything else." And he was right. I plunged into my work, studying the market, mastering negotiation strategies, analyzing deals. For the first time in many years, I felt excitement, a thirst for knowledge, a desire to prove to myself that I was worth something. 3 years flew by unnoticed. During this time, I have learned to understand the numbers and see behind them not just reports, but a whole growth strategy. Dad trusted me more than anyone, and with each new contract, I plunged deeper into the business. But no matter how hard I tried to move forward, the past wouldn't let me go. I still logged into Sarah's social media from time to time, trying to observe her life at least from a distance. That's how I found out she's graduating from college. I was not invited to attend the ceremony. Instead of an invitation, I received a short message. "Don't come to the prom. Bella says she's going to be embarrassed." Those words hurt me, but they didn't surprise me. I'm used to. In the photos from her graduation, she was beaming at David and Bella. Her stepbrother was sitting on David's shoulders, hugging his neck, and Sarah was laughing, snuggling up to them. They looked like the perfect family. Without me. Dad invited me to dinner that night. There was something different about him. He was quieter than usual, more thoughtful. When we finished eating, he motioned me into his office. "Sit down, honey." He carefully lowered himself into a leather armchair. My heart sank. "What's wrong, Dad?" He stared at my face for a moment, then exhaled heavily. "I've been sick for a while." I froze. "What?" "Cancer." His voice was calm. "I've been fighting him for 3 years. But—" He slowly shook his head. "The doctors say I don't have much time left." The world seemed to shake. "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" "Because," He smiled sadly. I needed to prepare you. I knew I didn't have much time, and I wanted to give you the business, teach you everything, and give you a chance to build something of your own. I fell to my knees next to his chair, grabbed his hand tightly, as if trying to hold him back, not to let him leave, to stop this inevitable and unfair outcome, which he already seemed to accept humbly. Dad, no. I whispered, feeling hot tears running down my cheeks, dripping onto his palm. He squeezed my hand. His fingers, though weakened by illness, still retained the same warm, native strength. Hey, don't cry, honey. We spent 3 years together. We made up. That's all I wanted. Now I can leave, peacefully. He left 3 months later. I organized the funeral myself, trying to honor him as best I could, going through my own grief, which was so deep that it seemed to tear me apart from the inside. He was the last person who really loved me without conditions, without demands, just for who I am. I wrote to Sarah, overcoming the trembling in my hands, hoping that, despite everything, she would come. Your grandfather died. The funeral is on Saturday. Please come. Her reply came almost instantly, and it hit me like a slap in the face. Why would I care about some old man? Dad says he was nasty anyway. I'm not interested. I stared at the screen, unable to believe that these words were written by my daughter. The man she rejected was ready to welcome her back into his life, despite her attitude towards me. He asked about her often, kept her picture on his desk, hoping that one day she would come back. And now she couldn't even show basic human respect for his death. The funeral was wonderful. A lot of people came, business partners, friends, those who respected him, who knew what kind of person he was. The only thing missing was Sarah. Her absence felt like a physical wound, but I straightened up and delivered the eulogy with the strength that remained in me. After that, the inheritance came. The house I grew up in has now turned into a huge mansion. The company I learned how to manage. All the real estate my father has accumulated over the years. Everything that David and Bella had boasted about, flaunting their wealth, now seemed insignificant in comparison. But I didn't want a mansion. I couldn't live in a place where every memory was beating on my heart. Instead, I asked my assistant to add it to our rental property portfolio. I stayed in my apartment. I renovated it the way I liked, making it really my home. This place became my home. There were people here who knew me, neighbors with whom I had become friends over the years. It was the perfect place to run a business. 2 years have passed. The business flourished under my leadership, and I found meaning, strength, and a new self in it. But my personal life remained empty because of the one person I missed the most. And then, suddenly, the phone rang. A name I hadn't seen in a long time appeared on the screen. Sarah. I froze, my heart skipped a beat, and then started pounding faster. Mom, she said without any greetings. I'm getting married. We'll come back next week and talk about it. Jake wants to meet you. Before I could say anything, she had already hung up. And so, as promised, the following week Sarah showed up at my apartment with her fiancé. I looked at her carefully, trying to figure out if she had changed even a little over the years. Her gaze quickly swept across the living room with barely concealed disdain, and then she casually ran her finger along the coffee table, as if checking for dust. It's the same old place, she muttered, curling her lip. And then, with a mocking smile, she added, You're still living in boredom and poverty, I see. I bit my tongue, not allowing myself to respond. Instead, she looked at her fiancé. Jake seemed confused by her words. He didn't look arrogant or cold, unlike Sarah. I started making coffee and putting the cakes I had bought in advance for their visit on the table. Tell me about the wedding, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Sarah immediately straightened up, brightened up. We are planning something impressive. Only the best places in the city will do. The ceremony will be held in 6 months. That's great, I nodded. Have you found a place yet? We're still looking, Jake replied politely. We want something really special. Sarah cleared her throat. Actually, Mom, that's why we're here. I felt something tense inside me. Weddings are expensive, you know. Of course, I nodded. We were hoping that you could help financially. I'll be happy to help, I replied calmly. I can contribute $10,000. There was a pause in the room. I looked at Sarah calmly, watching as her eyes frantically darted from one object in the room to another, as if she was trying to realize the extent of her mistake. There was something like fright in her gaze, but it was immediately replaced by a familiar expression of arrogance. Well, I think it's better than nothing, she muttered, rolling her eyes theatrically, as if she was still trying to save face. Jake, who had been sitting in silence up to this point, coughed nervously, but his parents looked much more collected, although the expression of slight tension did not escape my gaze. Bella has already promised to take care of my dress and my honeymoon, Sarah continued, as if that was supposed to calm me down, so at least I don't have to worry about that. I didn't say anything. I just stared at her, letting the silence hang between us, filling the space with an uncomfortable feeling that Sarah clearly felt but didn't want to admit. They didn't stay long after that. When the door closed behind them, I slowly sank onto my couch, feeling fatigue wash over me like a heavy wave. I thought about the irony of all this. A few years ago, I really lived modestly, counted every penny, worked tirelessly so as not to depend on anyone. And now that my father's company belonged to me, I could easily finance 10 such weddings without even batting an eye. But it wasn't about the money. Sarah's attitude, her constant teasing about my poverty, her complete lack of interest in my life, her coldness bordering on contempt, all this held me back. I sighed, closing my eyes. Let's see what happens, I muttered to myself. But I already knew the truth. I was waiting for a wedding invitation. I checked my mail every day, looked through emails, even looked at spam, hoping that maybe it was just lost. But nothing came. Finally, curiosity got the better of me, and I went to Sarah's social media page. The first thing that caught my eye was a long, enthusiastic post about what an ideal place she had found for a wedding. My eyes widened when I read the name of the ceremony hall. Grand Plaza. One of the most prestigious event venues in the city. And oh, what an irony, one of my own possessions. I continued reading, not holding back a grin. Jake and I have found the most amazing place for our wedding. The Grand Plaza is absolutely perfect. Such an elegant and exclusive place. You just need to sign the lease and everything will be ready. Sarah didn't even realize that her poor mother owned the very gym she admired so much. She chose it precisely because it represented everything she thought I couldn't give her: luxury, elegance, wealth. A week after her visit with Jake, she came to see me again, this time alone. I opened the door and saw her standing on the threshold, her face as cold as an icy wind. "Mom, I need to tell you something," she said, not even bothering to cross the threshold. I silently stepped aside, allowing her to enter. Sarah didn't sit down, didn't even offer me the opportunity to prepare for what she was going to say. "I won't invite you to the wedding." I felt something in my chest tighten painfully, but I kept a neutral expression on my face. "Why?" Sarah waved her hand contemptuously, looking around my apartment. "Look around, Mom. The wedding will take place at the Grand Plaza. Important people will be there: Jake's family, his father's business partners, Bella's friends." Her gaze returned to me, and I saw in her eyes not only coldness, but also something else, almost disgust. "You're too simple. Too poor. You won't fit in." The cruelty of her words took my breath away. But the worst part was that she didn't even realize how painful it was. "But hey," she added, heading for the door, "you can still send a gift. It would be best if I write you my card details." I stood in silence until the door slammed behind her. And then, without hesitating for a second, I picked up the phone and called my office. A week later, I walked into the Grand Plaza boardroom, where Sarah, Jake, and his parents were already sitting at the table. My property manager held the lease agreement in his hands, ready to sign. Sarah was literally glowing with happiness, until she saw me. "Mom?" Her jaw dropped. "What are you doing here?" I smiled, sat down in the leather chair at the head of the table, and folded my arms. "The Grand Plaza belongs to me." I saw her face turn pale at first, and then turn red. "Actually," I continued, "this company that manages all the real estate is also mine." Sarah opened her mouth, but no words came out. "But where did you get all this from?" "What is it?" she finally managed. I looked straight into her eyes. "Do you remember when I told you that your grandfather had died? When did I invite you to his funeral?" She nodded, still not understanding what I was getting at. "The one you called some nasty old man left everything to me. The company. Realty. His entire legacy." I could see the emotions fighting inside her. Anger, annoyance, and then that cold, calculating look I saw on her face when she chose between Bella and me. "Wait, if you own all this, then I'm your only heir." She narrowed her eyes, as if already working out a plan. "You have to give me a place for free. And a wedding present. For example, one of his possessions." I couldn't help but laugh. "In fact, I came here personally to reject your rental application." My words sounded calm, but there was a hidden power in them that made Sarah's face turn red at first, and then distorted into an indignant grimace. She jumped to her feet, her eyes flashing, her lips trembling with rage, and her hands clenched into fists. "You can't do this." "Stop it," she exclaimed, her voice rising to a screech. I looked at her with the calmness that I had lacked for many years, with the dignity that I had earned through hard work and internal struggle. "I can," I said, getting up slowly, gathering my documents into a neat pile. And I did it. I looked into the eyes of my manager, who nodded silently and put the contract back in the folder. Sarah was breathing heavily, her chest heaving convulsively, as if she couldn't believe what was happening. "I suggest you find another place," I continued, heading for the door, but paused for a moment, turning around. "And, Sarah." She froze, her gaze fixed on me, trying to guess what I was going to say. "Maybe think about whether it's worth destroying relationships with people who really love you just because they don't seem rich or important enough to you." I didn't wait for an answer, just turned around and left, the sound of my heels on the marble floor echoing in the hallway, drowning out her protests. "Mom!" Her scream haunted me like a phantom, but I didn't stop. "You can't do this to me." Her voice was getting more desperate, but I didn't turn around. "Mom, I'm your daughter." I kept walking, feeling the weight I'd carried for years getting lighter with every step. For the first time in a long time, I felt really strong. Not because of my wealth, not because of my position, but because I finally stood up for myself. 3 days after my encounter with Sarah at the Grand Plaza, I received a gold-embossed envelope in the mail. I recognized it immediately: the luxurious paper, the perfectly printed letters, the scent of expensive perfume soaked into the envelope. I carefully opened it and took out an intricate wedding invitation. Every detail screamed status: the calligraphic font, the embossed coat of arms, even the silk ribbon that held the card together. My phone vibrated with the message almost at the same time. "Mom, I'm so sorry for everything." I froze, feeling something inside me shrink. "I've been terrible with you. I've been thinking a lot, and now I realize how wrong I was. I'm ready to completely sever ties with Papa and Bella. We don't need them in our lives. Please come to my wedding. Please give me one more chance." I was sitting on the couch, holding the invitation in one hand and the phone in the other, feeling a strange sense of déjà vu. The words were perfect, the apology sounded sincere, but something was wrong. Then it hit me. It wasn't about me at all. I typed in the answer slowly. When I chose your father and Bella, it was because they seemed to offer something better than what I had with my father. More money, more excitement, more status. I left someone who really loved me because of superficial things. Does that sound familiar? I waited, watching as the three dots in the chat appeared and disappeared several times, as if Sarah was typing a reply but hesitated to send it. Finally, the message arrived. It's not fair, Mom. I really want to fix this. But now I saw it clearly. When David and Bella had money and status, Sarah chose them. Now that she knew I was rich, she chose me. The pattern was painfully obvious. I didn't answer. I put the wedding invitation in the drawer next to my dad's picture. The wedding date has come and gone. I spent that day working in my office, looking at the city my father built. Now he was in my hands, and I was coping. Sarah posted a lot of photos online. She found another place, less prestigious than the Grand Plaza, but still worthy. She looked gorgeous in her white dress. Her look was carefully thought out, perfect to the last curl. But her smile. Sometimes it seemed strained. I'm still checking her social media, watching her life from the sidelines. She doesn't post so many photos with David and Bella anymore. I suppose the luster of this relationship has also begun to fade. Sometimes she still sends me messages. Usually when she needs something. But I've learned to leave them unanswered. I have not lost hope for reconciliation. After all, it took me 15 years to realize what I had done to my father. 15 years to truly regret that I chose superficial things instead of true love. My father waited patiently all these years, ready to take me back when I finally understood. Maybe it's my role now to wait. Be prepared if Sarah ever truly realizes the difference between loving a person for who they are and loving them for what they can give her. Until then, I will continue to run the company that my father left me. I will live in my comfortable but modest apartment. And I'll leave the door open for the day when Sarah returns. Not because I'm rich or poor. It's because I'm her mother. Write a comment on what you think about this story and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like it. See you soon.